Hey everybody, it's me, Kentario. I'm back again with Christ and comic books. Just make sure for your support of the channel that you hit that subscribe button down at the bottom. I greatly appreciate it, and thank you guys that subscribed so far. The views, I make greatly appreciate those, but I'm looking to up the ante, so I'm going to put that work in to get the ante up. I'm going to be doing a lot more videos here. The goal is to do at least one a day, but I'm not going to sit here and make any promises to you. But if I want the results, I got to put in the work. Am I right? So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put in the work at my workplace. I'm going to put in the work at church to get the church building done. I'm going to put in the work putting these videos out. So thank you guys for your support. I greatly appreciate it. Y'all going to have to forgive me. I know I'm looking a little rough today, but I'm at least looking to, like I said, I'm going to make sure that I get this done, okay? Put the work in, all right? And I'll be presenting myself a little bit better as the days go forward. I'm going to get this haircut. Y'all watch out. You're going to see. You're going to see. I'm going to get my hair cut. So, but today's video, what I want to kind of look at doing tonight is, so I was watching Comics Explained. Rob Jefferson, he does, that's his YouTube channel. It's called Comics Explained. And he's the guy that I started watching maybe 3-4 years ago who explains comic books. He explains heroes. He does explanations on their powers. He does explanations on how strong are they really. He talks about the full-length storyline for certain comic book arcs and series that go out for DC, for Marvel. He doesn't delve too much into anime and manga, but he does have a respect for the material. And he's a guy that I love to listen to. His explanations are very clear, they're very sharp. And so I watched his explanation of Doomsday Clock. For those of you that don't know comic books, because I know I have some supporters that don't know much about comic books, don't know, what's this series, what that series is. So Doomsday Clock is a DC comic series. I think it was running for about 3 years according to Rob's explanation that he gave, which I'm going to tag at the bottom of the video as well if you want to refer back to that as well as the full explanation. There's 2 videos I'm going to tag in this so you guys can see. But in his explanation of Doomsday Clock, it was a 3-year running series that was, or arc that was being written by DC. And what this was working with was, it was DC being mixed in with Watchmen. So those two are kind of correlating through this. And I'm going to do my best to summarize what's happening in Doomsday Clock so that everything makes sense. So part of the Watchmen, there's a character known as Dr. Manhattan, who has, I guess you could say, multiversal power level. He could warp reality. He could travel between the future. He could manipulate between the future and the past. He has that kind of power. He can manipulate you on a subatomic level, on a molecular level. He has that kind of power. He is a telepath. He can multiply himself, which each having its own level of sentience to be able to act and communicate. He's one, though, to make sure this is also clear, he was more so operating as an observer, someone who was curious and intrigued by human behavior, even more so close to maybe scientific, because he would do certain things to see, reactions. He would do certain things to see the results of what would take place. So as a person that exists between the past, present, and future at once, he, as a part of the Watchmen, kind of separated himself. I believe he was living on Mars. He built his own civilization there. And something he observed about the future was he can see Superman coming at him, but everything goes black after that. So to try and figure things out as to what that meant and what that led to, what he ended up doing was he ended up going to the past and affecting historical heroes' history. To put this in simple terms, it's not every single one of them that he affected, but he affected the original Justice League of America, one of which being the original Green Lantern, the version of him where he finds the lantern before a train accident and ends up saving everyone on the train. He's the version that has the red shirt with the Green Lantern on the front as well as the purple cape. That's the version of which was impacted, and what Dr. Manhattan did was he kept him from being able to get the lantern, which ended in him ended up dying in that instance. He manipulated Superman's planet the way that it ended. He saved his dad from dying when the planet was destroyed, so Clark Kent's actual dad survived it. Zor-El, I believe his name was, he survived the destruction of the planet. Clark Kent's Earth parents, Jonathan Kent and Martha Kent, both ended up dying in a car accident. and that was because he was fearful of actually becoming a hero, so he never actually did it until after they died, and then he took on that role of becoming a hero. So Dr. Manhattan manipulated the timeline of DC. Even more so, he impacted the Flashpoint incident that took place with Flash. He kept that from taking place. So it all kind of warped the reality of the future that was coming forward. And it brought about a heavy warfare between man and meta-humans. And when I say meta-humans are when Superman came on the scene, America and other countries are like, okay, there is a race of things that have these accessibilities. We need to be able to get ourselves to that point. So they started experimenting on humans, making them into more superpowered and capable people. And that's how you get meta-humans. Flash would fall under that category. There's several different heroes that fall under that category. Oh my goodness. They even consider Batman now to be a meta-human because of his intelligence, his battle prowess, and what he's demonstrated to be capable of. He falls under the category of meta-human. So, like I said, it's a combination of Watchmen and DC. So with them coming together, Dr. Manhattan is manipulating the timeline to figure out what the ultimate end is when it comes to Superman. Superman, to summarize everything that took place in this, Superman starts to figure out everything. Superman's having to contend between heroes in other countries versus the heroes in America, and they're all coming together, people getting accused of doing evil things. Heroes are being perceived as evil. No one knows how all this is going to play out. It's making things very catastrophic across the world. And there's even an instance where the heroes all come together to come against Dr. Manhattan, and he mops the floor with them. So his power level is up there. It's very, very high power level. So again, I'm trying to summarize this. So this gets to the point where Superman's having to fight off heroes. Dr. Manhattan shows up, starts talking to Superman, and Superman's trying to figure out why he's doing this. The instance come where we saw already earlier, Superman's coming at him and he goes black. So in this instance, we see why. What happens is Superman goes in and defends Dr. Manhattan. And that being what happens with Clark Kent defending Dr. Manhattan, Superman ends up speaking to Dr. Manhattan and conveying to him that things don't need to be this way. I don't need to do this to you. He wants to understand why. He actually starts to have a conversation with him instead of going off on him for what had taken place and the results of everything that took place. They actually converse things through. Long story short, this leads to Dr. Manhattan making the decision to reverse everything he did. And then reversing everything he did, this brings back the heroes that were lost. And what this does from the universal level, he's restored things back to the way they were. On a fan to comic book level, writer to creation level, as far as DC goes, that says, okay, now the people that we've gotten rid of, we can start to bring back and redo the things that we've otherwise taken away. We can start to bring those back. My baby probably came in the door. Yeah, I think y'all might have heard that. That's my queen, y'all. But okay, so this comes to the point where, like I said, what he ends up doing is bringing back everyone that was gone. So the original Green Lantern, he's back in the storyline, back in the mythos, back in the storyline to be used. So DC can, make stories with him. They can make stories with Martian the Manhunter. They can make stories with so many other people who otherwise had kind of fallen off. Fans weren't reading about. People weren't interested in. They didn't care too much about. Now, DC can come back and bring these people into the DC universe and do their own stories with them because the fan base has increased as far as the comic book world. So this gives them a lot more to work with. Okay, so this brings me to the other point. There's like two more other points I want to kind of work into with this. So one of the things that Comics Explained has spoken to was how it was never explained why things went black when Dr. Manhattan had when Dr. Manhattan was seeing what was going to happen in his future. It's Superman coming at him, and then things go black after that, so he didn't know what the future held. It seemed as though Superman was going to contend with him and end him. But when you think about what Dr. Manhattan's capable of, and although Superman has very high magnitude of power, you don't see Superman with his physical power being able to defeat someone with a molecular power level, such as Dr. Manhattan. Reality warping power like Dr. Manhattan does. So you don't see that kind of playing out that way. So it really leaves fans wondering how that's going to happen. But because it ends with him actually defending Dr. Manhattan against other people that tried to attack him, and them having a good, deep conversation, and for him to restore everything back to the way it was, bringing back to life other heroes that otherwise would have died based off of that timeline, it makes you wonder, well, what was he really seeing? What was the point of all that? So in his video that I'm also going to tag in this, he speaks to, it's one I watched today, he speaks to how, with talking with some of the people that he knows that are very advanced in comic books and have, good creative ideas. They thought that was the reason he couldn't see past that moment was for Dr. Manhattan. That was like a fork in the road for him in knowing what the future would hold from that. Would it be that he would contend with Superman, or would it be that he would lead to the restoration of the universe? Would it be the destruction of the universe, or would it be the end of Superman? You don't know how that would play out. Would him defeating Superman leave the universe empty? Who knows? So it left a blank as far as the choices that he would make. And since it left that blank, it was blank to him what to expect for that future. So that's where they were coming from with that. And I really took into that explanation because it sparked something for me that I wanted to speak to. And this is the point that I was really looking to get to. I commented on this video and I actually spoke to this, so I wanted to make an actual recording for anyone that might have been confused about what I was saying when I commented. And so what I ended up putting together with this was that with Marvel, you have the one above all. The thing about the one above all is he is the one above the multiverse of the Marvel comic book universe. But he's one of those characters that does not apply himself to anything happening, is that he creates it and he witnesses what happens, which is kind of how people perceive God when they're thinking of God as, he's just playing with us. He just put us here to watch us, do what we do and maybe toddle with us here and there. One above all just created it and witnesses it take place. He doesn't really put his hands to anything, manipulate anything, or even wipe things out because he finds out they're evil. He doesn't operate at that level. He just creates and witnesses, right? So the thing about One Above All is he's only been illustrated in 3 ways. One way being Stan Lee, another way being Jack Kirby, and the third way being a homeless man. So in those 3 depictions, you can kind of grasp that the One Above All represents the writers, creators, and illustrators for the Marvel Universe. So they're the ones that bring things out and they put it before us and we witness it, and based from that we get to see whether we do or do not like what has come about. So with that being the case, you can kind of see that symbolism there. Now, for me, as I, of course, watching Comics Explained, reading through comics, hearing about the different stories that are coming out and the purpose of what other characters have been used for throughout history, I kind of came to the conclusion that to represent us as the fans, as the witnesses, as people who have an opinion towards what we do and don't like as far as comic books go, Franklin Richards, who is the son of Reed Richards and Susan Storm, who are the 2 characters from Fantastic Four, their son represents us as the fans. The only evidence I really go off to kind of speak to that is there was an instance where our Marvel heroes were going to be wiped out, and to ensure that we didn't lose them, at least the ones that, from I guess you could say the writer perspective, at least the ones that the fans would want to really see not be lost, the ones that fans would like to see come back. What Franklin Richards did was he made a miniature universe to hold them in, to make sure that they were safe until he could actually bring them back out. Now, to be clear about Franklin Richards is a reality warper himself. He has high telepathic abilities. He has, energy blasts, psychic abilities. He can control reality. He's so strong, especially when he becomes an adult. There is an instance, I think it's Jonathan Hickman's writing for the Fantastic Four. You witness how old Franklin Richards was able to even take control of Galactus. Galactus became his herald, which is basically meaning a servant to Franklin Richards. So his power level was higher than that of Galactus. He was so strong, he was able to punch a Celestial in the face and kill him. Punch him and kill him. So for comic book fans, you know how powerful that actually is. For the people that don't know, that's very powerful. You defeated someone who could create a planet, basically, just to give you that surmise. They could destroy planets, just to give you that picture. So he was able to punch them and defeat them. But he is one that represents us, because you don't see him often. But when it comes to situations where we're trying to salvage, fans, the characters that fans love, that's who they would bring in the picture. And of course, there's several instances where characters are designed, characters are brought into stories where that's what they symbolize, is they're brought in to address those instances where, like the uh, the Living Tribunal. The Living Tribunal are only brought in to address situations where they don't know how to end their story. So the best way to end their story is they bring in the Living Tribunal to bring judgment on the situation, and boom, that's what's going to happen going forward. But when it comes to the one above all, he's brought in as a representation of writers and illustrators. Franklin Richards brought in to represent our fans and the fans and what we feel wants to be kept to really keep stories going. And I think that's what they're doing with Dr. Manhattan. I honestly think that Dr. Manhattan is being brought in to represent one of the two positions for the DC universe. That he's going to be now the representation of either the writer's perspective and what they are feeling, or the fans' perspective and what they're seeing. So if you want to see that for Dr. Manhattan, remember, I mentioned Dr. Manhattan, at least from what Rob was bringing into his video with the explanation of why he only saw black. The fork in the road. Whenever a writer is looking to expand their stories or looking to continue DC, what can we do next to make DC great? Right? They're put in a position of there being a fork in the road. It's not simply, when you're watching something, you're like, oh, what's going to be the next fight? But you don't realize what's going to be the cap on the story, or where can the story go that's going to make it deeper. That's what writers are picturing. So you could say, yeah, sure, from a fan perspective, let's make it Superman versus Dr. Manhattan. But if you really want to make it bigger, to expand DC, you want to say, okay, which way can we go then to make it greater? So if you want to see Dr. Manhattan as that representation of the writers and illustrators and the creators for DC, it's like, what's going to be our next step? We're not 100% sure. So we need this, which, like I said, it took them 3 years to write this, so it probably took them 3 years to think of what the best move is going to be for DC. So as they were writing, they were coming up with that final note. And for them to bring back characters that they otherwise got rid of for fans, and then they decide we're going to bring these back for the fans, because now the fans are back being interested in DC. So now we can bring all of these people back into DC, and then this gives us an opportunity for people to say, oh, what can he do? Ooh, what can he do? What kind of story can you write for this character? And again, that brings back into one of the major things that I've been speaking to about this. It's not just about giving someone a new fight. It's not just about what new powers we can create. It's about the depth of a story that can be written to bring about a deeper and more impactful way of speaking. And for those that believe in the Bible in a metaphoric sense, as we draw this video to a close, the people that view the Bible from a metaphoric sense, that's how they kind of see the relationship between us and God. Is they see that the Bible is capturing human beings, feelings, their emotions, their suffering, their joy, their thoughts, all are being captured in the Bible, and God is reflecting of that, of what we feel and what we experience. But us at our best is the image of God, giving us someone to strive towards. Now, I'm only speaking from a metaphoric sense, as I am a believer that God is real. So yes, I believe in this metaphoric application, but I do also believe that God genuinely is. We genuinely are the image of God, imago Dei, for those that know the term. I believe it's a Hebrew or Greek term for the image of God. We are the image of God. We are a representation of God. And so when we're looking at the Bible as well and seeing how we are, when we see God expressing his feelings, his wrath, his love, his sadness, his sorrow, the suffering of his son on the cross, that's just a deeper reflection of the love and the feelings that God has for us being depicted in the Bible, and is telling us, hey, what you're experiencing right now, this has been going on. This has been a part of life, and I brought the remedy. I'm there for you going through it. So that's that relationship there. I know that's not a major one for some people that may be watching this, but I think that's an important one to bring into this video. Hey guys, well, I want to thank you all for joining me tonight. Again, I want to recommend that you please hit that subscribe button, show your support, because I want to make sure that I do this big. I want to make sure that I show my commitment, because I'm not just doing this for me. I'm doing this for you guys who all have these kinds of thoughts, who think of these things as deep, and who have their opinions on this. Thank you guys, and y'all have a blessed evening.